This time I mean it. Communist China. All right, here we go. Let's go. In the early 1900s, so going back to the end of the Qing, or during the Qing dynasty, the last emperor, or one of the last emperors, Chinese nationalism grew. They wanted to replace this dynasty with a republic. So that, coupled with foreign domination, remember the whole sphere of influence and opium wars and all that fun stuff. And they wanted to create economic growth. Who doesn't? Who doesn't want to grow economically? This coffee was wicked hot. All right. Emperor Pui, the last Chinese emperor.
That's a nice shade.
Nice drip right there.
How old is he?
He was young, and he actually went into Manchuria and kind of hid later. And then Sun Yat-sen is going to become an important person, especially with respect to post-dynastic China and Taiwan, or as America called it until 1972, China. All right. That was also in yesterday's notes. Okay, in 1911, the Qing dynasty was overthrown and replaced by the Chinese Republic and Sun Yat-sen. So they overthrew the emperor and they established a republic. Yes. A republic, a form of government. Not to be confused with communism, not a form of government. Or socialism, also not a form of government. Ugh. My son had a review sheet for his Cold War test in 7th grade yesterday. I'm like, tell your teacher that's wrong. Tell your teachers that's wrong. Tell your teachers that's wrong.
Or the state flag.
Just because she was English. Yeah. I'm like, but I said, for the test, put it down. Because that's what she thinks the answers are. And so she goes, what do you mean? I'm like, trust me, you just got to eat it on this one. Just understand she's wrong, get the point. And then afterward on the test, go like, actually, she was an economic. Not that I ever did that in high school. I did that in an English test, not an history test.
Oh, you gotta teach them like
To save it for college. Then they'll love you. All right, the Qing dynasty overthrown and replaced by Chinese Republic. I told you there is the letter. There's long live the Republic. We got our propaganda. We got our artwork. So now it's official. They're koi. They're just synonymous. I don't know what they mean in Chinese culture, but I think it's just koi or carp. It's a koi. Yeah. Yeah.
So what flag is what? The Republic.
I think the Republic's to the right. And I don't know what the other ones are, but I know that's the Republican because that looks like Taiwan's flag.
Yeah.
Well,
I like the middle one I've seen.
Yeah, the middle one I've definitely seen.
I've seen it before.
Yeah, I don't know why the fish. It's just art, man.
You said that flag was something about each color represented a different ethnicity or something in China.
A region of China.
One is
Okay. All right. China was weak after World War I. Peasant struggled. Again, when you're a predominantly agricultural society and your primary rivals are, well, they still are primarily agricultural, but they're also burgeoning industrialists. That can be problematic. The foreign powers, because of their power, begin to assert more influence in China. Sun Yat-sen steps down. Oh, I was thinking of Chiang Kai-shek. Sun Yat-sen steps down. So the first Republican leader of China is like, I'm out of here. I can't handle all this, man. It's too much pressure. It's like taking an AP exam at home. I got to leave. So he leaves. Somebody had to be there to fill the void. There's always somebody there to fill the void. And there he is. He's replaced by Chiang Kai-shek. The Kuomintang, or a nationalist government supported by middle class and foreigners. So he represents the middle class and foreigners. Can't see any problems heading up our way with this guy. And remember, when your leader's wearing a uniform, es aus not good. Okay. So there you go, Chiang Kai-shek. And he's a nationalist government. He has middle class support, which is going to be good for certain things, but not having peasant support is ultimately going to be problematic. Many people saw a nationalist government as corrupt and controlled by foreign nations, i.e., or not i.e., ergo puppet. And yes, in case you're wondering, that is a statue. Okay. Just not caked in mud. Many Chinese peasants were attracted to Mao Zedong and the Communist Party. Mao promised land reform, as most communists did. The idea of collective farming, the idea of everybody being able to eat, the idea of taking stuff away from the wealthy and giving it to everybody else. Property and wealth is redistribution. Who's sick of it? I thought the most interesting, yes, sir.
Why do people think the national government control like certain countries?
Because he was friendly with them. And there's just that kind of fear. And I think if I read a little more, I would not be surprised if they didn't have his ear. You know, kind of like, you know, maybe you should institute this policy. I would not be surprised if there was a little bit of that going on. Yeah, but
My summer project was on Mao, or Maoism.
oh, it was? So what do you know?
I'll add more as we go.
Oh, that's what I like to hear. Has anybody else, I appreciate that. Has anybody else's summer thing come up in all this semester? Is the time frame yet? Why did you share stuff?
I don't know. I don't like being on.
What?
The summer project.
I was a fan.
I could have gotten in it possibly. I didn't do the summer work.
That was less summer work than a hug. All right.
Yeah.
The force of the peasantry is like that of the raging winds and driving rain. They will bury beneath them all forms of imperialism, militarism, corrupt officialdom, village bosses, and evil gentry. Basically, anything that stands in its way will be consumed by the peasantry. Yeah.
So at this point, because like the king have been overthrown, they don't have to wear like their hair in that certain way now.
No, with the dynasty, no, that's all gone. Yep. It's the 20th century, man. That's probably hippie Chinese, right? A revolution is an uprising, an act of violence whereby one class overthrows another. A rural revolution is a revolution by which the peasantry overthrows the authority of the feudal landlord class. So they still see it as a feudal system, where the landed people own the land, those people work under them, and they are pretty much paralyzed to do anything about it. So there you go. Yes. The war unit? Yes. Yes, it is. This is going, yeah, this is the turn of the 20th century. Yeah, this is going on because they're going to be invaded here shortly. They're going to fight Russia here shortly too. Mao also wants support of women. Mao and so does communism to a degree, rejects the if all people are in this, then all people are in this. So the Confucian beliefs that women are here and men are here, he does not subscribe. He opposed foot binding. He opposed arranged marriages. Would you like to get some water? All right. Women hold up half the sky.
It's not wrong.
No, I know. That's the point he's making.
Yeah.
I know he's not wrong. Actually, technically, slightly more than half the sky. You know that now there are more women in colleges than men?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
So now men can go to college to find themselves a wife. What?
Have a quote about
the peasants that Mao said about the peasants.
Yeah.
It says they'll rise like a tornado or tempest, a force so extraordinarily swift and violent that no power, however great, will be able to suppress it.
Well, that's
Wait,
different.
It's a different part of the same quote. Good. So he said this more than once. So obviously that wasn't just somebody quote grabbing. He actually meant that. And you have to believe that if you're going to get them to buy in. You have to sell that. All right. It's a painting. He could have been arrested. He very well could have been arrested. Or it could be his university picture. No, he doesn't look too happy. A 22-year civil war broke out in China between nationalists and communists. 22 years. Between 1.8 and 3.5 million people were killed during this civil war. Here's where Chiang Kai-shek is probably at a disadvantage. He has the middle class with him, so I assume that his supporters are going to be middle class. But since most of China isn't, ultimately he's probably going to run out of peasant support, and Mao's not. So I guess, and this just shows, this is the Great March. What you're looking at is Mao's Great March. Yeah, the Long March, that's it. It was pretty long.
So
Around the major cities for safety's sake.
Basically a year.
In 1934, Mao's communists fled nationalist forces on the Long March 6,000 miles. And all along the way, Mao's spreading the word. He's the Pied Piper of communism. Let me tell you a story. And there's lots of peasants there, so it's going to help. His numbers. Now, obviously, too, if you think about things geographically, it's going to spread through Western China at first. Oh, there's your typical. Mao's army successfully used hit-and-run guerrilla tactics rather than face the nationalist army. This is a trend we'll see over and over again in 20th century warfare. Don't take the larger army head on. Hit and run, small group, sneak attack. Use the countryside. It's not going to be like my army's here and your army's there, and you're gonna like pick off little pieces, not go after the whole thing. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts.
that actual phone.
Yeah. Revolution is not a dinner party, nor an essay, nor a painting, nor a piece of embroidery. It cannot be advanced softly, gradually, carefully, considerately, respectfully, politely, plainly, and modestly. The revolution is an insurrection, an act of violence by which one class overthrows another. That's a lot of adverbs to get to a point.
I would argue that's not true. Like,
Ooh, stop. I'll type that up tonight. All right. Excellent. What? What's wrong with that discussion question? Revolutions don't have to be violent to be successful.
I missed that one.
I know you don't. All right. Nationalist, communist, and Japanese forces all fought for control of China during World War II. We know Japan wanted it because, resources. Flex. The little island that did. Yep. And now I'm much older, Mao. In 1949, the communists finally defeat the nationalists. That's a long struggle. And Mao establishes the People's Republic of China. Yes, there are people. Yes, it is China. Not so sure on the Republic. Yeah,
How do they afford?
China's making money. I mean, China trades. China has revenue. Chiang Kai-shek was funded by the United States.
But he was fighting for the national.
Yeah,
So how did they lose?
more of them. And it was, it's 49, so we were a little busy. So when the World War II starts, then our commitment has to lessen.
Isn't there like a little book called like Mao's Little Red Book?
The Little Red Book, everybody had one. Yeah, you had to have it. Yep, we'll get to that. Yeah, it's Little Red Book. It was in one of the earlier pictures. The guy holding up the Little Red Book. Yes.
Is it also like this lasted a long time and because were they using like total war tactics? I feel like it was.
I don't know the nuances and everything about this war. I know it was off and on because during the time of the Civil War, China invades. During the time of the Civil, when Japan invades, and when Japan invades, they actually kind of help each other. And then they take care of Japan, and they go back, sort of like us in the Soviet Union. So there were other things going on that kind of interrupted it and made it. It wasn't 29 years of constant warfare. Kind of like the 100 Years' War. It wasn't 100 consecutive years of fighting. That's when they decided to end it. Because back in the old days, you'd stop for planting, you'd stop fighting for harvest. Like there were all sorts of things. So, winter, it's too cold. I ain't killing. All right. Chiang Kai-shek and the nationalists fled to Taiwan, and they established the Republic of China. That's what the United States recognized as China until 1972, Taiwan, because that's where the government went. They did not recognize communist China. Not until Nixon goes to China do we formally recognize communist China.
So what were they doing?
Just not China. They were just a communist state. They are still enemies today. China wants it. China thinks it's China. In fact, this week's Economist, which I have, which I'm hopefully going to get to over the weekend, the title article is the most dangerous place in the world, and it's Taiwan.
Really?
Why?
Because of what's at stake. The only reason China has not invaded Japan is that we're there to stop it. China. Yeah. China sees it as theirs. That's Taiwan's part of China. And Taiwan's like, I want no party. And the only reason Taiwan is because we're there and saying they don't want any party. And trust me, if we could, we'd do that to Hong Kong too.
What's the deal with Hong Kong? Sorry, that's kind of off topic, but
Well, it's in China.
so is it? But is it?
It went back at the millennium. It went back to China. England had it, and then it went back to China. And China promised them they could keep their economy because the Hong Kong economy, the Hong Kong dollar is nothing like the yuan, the Chinese dollar. Their economy is that cow analogy. The Hong Kong cow analogy is 2 degrees left of bananas. Like I don't get it, but it's successful. It has a different way of doing things. It is not communist. And China has that's why you had the umbrella protests, and they're still protesting, and there's protests all the time because a good portion of Hong Kong wants no part of China. China wants it because of the economics.
Is it that little island down the bottom?
Hong Kong is,
It's literally just a city.
yeah, it's like there. Yeah, it's a city. Hong Kong is a city.
But for a long time, they had a higher GDP than all of China. So one city.
That's a flux. All right. Mao sought to transform China from an agricultural society into a modern industrial nation. Oh, wait till you hear this plan. Oh, this is brilliant stuff. Again, noble. I can appreciate the enthusiasm. However, there's certain people have certain skills and certain things need to be left to certain people. Everybody does need to be in the steel business, let's just say. All right. Mao Zedong is the Chinese people's savior. Awesome, lovely graffiti. Okay. Literacy increased. That's good. Land owning and business classes were eliminated. Peasants were given health care. What's wrong with that? I don't think. And we can discuss that on any lunchtime discussion. We can have lunchtime roundtables if you want. I don't care. But this is just from the standpoint of a lack of class and the fact that everyone should be afforded the same thing. This isn't, yeah. All right. If there's to be a revolution, there must be a party. Without a revolutionary party, without a party built on communist revolutionary theory and in the communist revolutionary style, it is impossible to lead working class. So there has to be a revolutionary party. The party that rules, that governs, that runs this country has to be imbued with revolutionary communist ideology. They have to know it, they have to live it, they have to lead the people, or it cannot work. All right. Mao established communist dictionary, denied people basic. Why does people do this to me? Oh, fix you. Jeez. Don't do that. By the way, it doesn't give you arthritis. That's a wives' tale. Yeah, you're removing. All you're doing is moving fluid out of your knuckles. Arthritis is a genetic condition. Ah! No, back. Okay. There we go. All right. So he established one-party communist dictatorship and denied people basic human rights. Got healthcare, but these human rights deal with freedoms with respect to speech and assembly and things like that. Don't you want to abolish state power? Yes, we do, but not right now. We cannot do it yet. Why? Because imperialism still exists, because domestic reactions still exist, because classes still exist. So until those things are gone, there must be a state entity, a state government. So once we get rid of imperialism, according to, so in other words, is he ever going to get rid of this government? No, because imperialism is never going to go away. What a lovely out. You can put down all the revolts you want. You can kill everybody so that everybody left in your country is like, yay, Mao. But imperialism is not going to stop. It may not be geographical imperialism, but somehow or another, countries are going to get in your country, unless you can control everything. And then if you're going to control everything, you've got to have an agency to control it. So he's pretty much lying to his Chinese people, I think. Women gain equality under the law and worked alongside men, but alas, not truly equal. Wah, wah, wah. I love communist country artwork. Like everybody is just so strong, and even the children are like, "Yes, I can do this." And it's all good. Enable every woman who can work to take her place on the labor front under the principle of equal pay for equal work. Yep, always, yep. In 58, Mao announced a policy called the Great Leap Forward, calling for increased agricultural and industrial output. China's economy was weak. It's amazing where it is now. Amazing. The Great Leap Forward. It's analogous to like Stalin's 5-year plans.
I think this 5-year plan actually worked.
I don't know, yes and no. He had to have more than one, so they probably didn't work enough. But they worked enough to. They moved the countries forward, so I don't think they failed in that respect. Take steel as the key link. Leap forward in all fields. Right. Mao created communes where groups of people lived and worked together. They held property in common. Isn't that like a kibbutz? No. Isn't that like a kibbutz? You know, I don't know. So it's communal life. It's a community where everybody works together and they share in the stuff and they provide. And we all work together, soldier together, harvest together, make steel together. Why not? There's a serious tendency towards capitalism among the well-to-do peasants. This tendency will become rampant if we, in the slightest way, neglect political work among the peasants. So basically, work and train capitalist tendencies out of everybody. Make it a non-starter. Make it something that just isn't China. If it's in there, we cannot achieve our goals. We must root it out one way or another. So you go to those, not reconditioning camps, but like in a lot of these countries, like in Cambodia and in Vietnam and in other places, they take the educated people and they China the student, they send them to camps to kind of reacclimate them to the earth and farming is, and they downplay. And intellectuals are always the first people to go in revolutions because they tend to be revolutionary. Look at that. Heck yeah. She called me a Steve. All right. Wheat production will skyrocket. Absolutely. Look at that rare broccoli wheat. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Communes had production quotas. So you've got to produce this much in this amount of time. Quotas are a thing. If you don't, then shame on your commune. I'm sure there were penalties. The Great Leap Forward failed. Commune-based industries turned out poorly made goods. Farm output decreased. 20 million people died. In most countries, that's catastrophic. In China, that's still a lot, but it's not catastrophic. 20 million people died of starvation. This isn't even us getting to the floods yet. And those were accidental, but still trying to move forward. But this also speaks to the interconnectedness of the West and how because of geography, England, but to a greater extent, Spain and France and Italy really couldn't be, or the Ottomans couldn't be isolationists. They had constant contact and constant communications with all different types of peoples, with all different types of ideas. So technology and innovation and enlightened ideas just were bound to happen there because of contact. When you choose, like Russia or China, to remain isolated to yourself, it is going to hinder progress. It's not a character flaw. It's not, God, the Chinese and the Russians are stupid for doing that. They were doing what they thought was best for their country. But if you are only going, to take it back to economics, competition is good because competition breeds innovation. You have to think of a better way of doing something. If he's doing something really well and you're doing the same thing, Ben, you've got to figure out a way to do it better so you don't lose out to him. If China's only thinking about the way China does it, then it's going to hurt them in the long run. Why did Japan pass them? Why did Japan go from feudal something to industrial power like that, Ben? What did they purposely do? They went and said, "How do you do it?" And they said, "We're going to learn, and then we're going to go to war." But they embraced the fact that they did not know. Yes, what are you going to hand to? What are you going to say? Oh, okay. Were you going to say something else?
Yes, sir. So do you think if one of those European countries had said like the same thing, like we're going to be totally isolationist, do you think they'd be able to do it even though they had all those industrial?
I think England could. I think islands could have. I think on the continent would have been so difficult because China also has the benefit of the Alps or the Himalayas and the desert. And so they had geographic benefits. It'd be very difficult for one of those countries just to, I mean, that's why Switzerland can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, until, modern technology, but it's, go ahead. You want to come in, climb. But I think it'd be very, very difficult to be isolation. Sure. All right. The grain production dropped by 30% during the Great Leap Forward. Quotas limit, because if you don't have a quota, well, pros and cons of a quota. Anybody? Give me one.
There's like a constant.
Okay, which one are you giving?
Oh, okay, bro.
Okay. Okay.
There's a constant amount like that you get every time.
Okay. The pro of having a quota is you know how much you're going to get. Any other pros of a quota? Yeah.
You just think of that point.
Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Okay. It helps you with allocating labor. How much labor am I going to need? You can figure that stuff out. What are the cons of a quota?
If you don't hit your quota, your points great.
Yeah, if you don't hit your quota, that there could be problems. What else?
You may, once you hit that quota, you're just gonna be done, because there's nothing else.
Right.
that you need to do more.
Okay. So you're gonna say, yeah, so the other good thing about a quota, I guess, is you can control the price. If you overproduce, that affects the price, but your people don't eat. If you underproduce, that raises the price and your people don't eat. So, but and also because it's grain, storing it is an issue, but depending on the crop, what's wrong with surplus? That's the part about quotas that has always kind of got to me. All right. An attempt to break the Russian model of communism and to catch up with the more advanced nations, Mao proposed China should make a great leap forward into modernization. He began a militant 5-year plan to promote technology and agricultural self-sufficiency. Overnight, fertile rice fields were plowed over and factory construction work began. Labor-intensive methods were introduced and farming collectivized on a massive scale. So this is explaining what happened previously. The campaign created about 23,500 communes, each controlling its own means of production. But former farmers had no idea how to actually use the new factories, and what was once fertile cropland went to waste on a disastrous scale. The Great Leap Forward was held responsible for the famine of 1960 and 1961. 20 million people starved, and Mao Zedong withdrew temporarily from public view. That's just an explanation of how 20 million people died. All right. In 66, Mao wanted to renew the people's loyalty to communism and establish more equitable society with the Cultural Revolution. There's the book, Gina. Yep. Oh, wait a minute. What a diverse bunch of Chinese. Fascinating. There is, what would be the stereotypical Mexican is right here with the sombrero and the mustache. There are the Africans and the black man. There's the Chinese man. There's, looks like a European. They're all right there, communists. So, all right. And look how strong, look how stern and serious they are. Let's go. And they're AK-47s. Yeah. Yeah. Mao feared intellectuals were running the country, not peasants and workers. So schools and colleges were shut down. That's, big brain. But again, when we were having this conversation about the Great Depression in the first period. Why is it that people who were alive during the Great Depression don't trust banks? If your history with the intellectuals is not a good one, then you would fear them. Why is Europe the way it is with respect to the church during the Enlightenment? Because their history would tell them you can't trust it. So instead of just offhanded going big brain, I know it seems counterintuitive, sort of contextually understand why this is seen as a viable option based upon their history with intellectuals and with how intellectuals have interfered with their life from other places. Oh, no. All right. Students formed Red Guards and attacked professors, government officials, factory managers. with their little books in hand.
So they're in support of communism, but they government officials?
They're attacking. Remember, it's ideally a classless society, and there is no like. Remember in communism, there's just the ruling oligarchy, and then it's supposed to be everybody else. The world is yours as well as ours, but in the last analysis, it is yours. You young people, full of vigor and vitality, are in the bloom of life, like the sun at 8 or 9 in the morning. Our hope is placed on you. The world belongs to you. China's future belongs to you. Erase that. The world's future belongs to you. Don't go hit people with books, but this is true. So instead of worrying about your notifications, fix it. Not for us, fix it for you.
So I don't get it. Who are they mad at? The government or like?
They're mad at anybody not Mao and anybody who is intelligent, like, because they equate the intelligent or the intelligentsia with revolution and problem makers and troublemakers and add stirring things up. And people who aren't just people who question are inefficient, and inefficiency gets in the way of the communist model. All pull together.
Why would students like the fact that he's trying to like shut down college?
Because these are little kids. These are peasant kids. These aren't university kids. Yeah. The Red Guard attacked Cemetery Confucius and hacked faces off Buddhist statues. This is where, whether it's 1969, 2020, and we're lopping off statues, where ideology can run amok. Irrespective of your thoughts on Confederate statuary, defacing them is criminal. So whether or not you think they should be in public or in a park or in a museum, we are entitled to those opinions all day because it is part of history and they should be in the museum. But to go and tear them down is criminal. Yeah.
Can that be a lunch discussion?
Next week, yeah. All right. The streets of Shanghai, normally deserted at 9 o'clock in the evening, were a sea of humanity. Under the cool breeze of September, people were out in the thousands to watch the intensified activities of the red, clear autumn sky and guards. Okay. Oh, wait, what's it saying? Red Guards disapproved of. Outside private houses and apartment buildings, smoke rose over the garden walls, filling the air as Red Guards continued to burn books indiscriminately.
These are all like kids.
On temporary platforms erected everywhere, the young revolutionaries were calling upon the people in shrill and fiery rhetoric to join the revolution. And conducting small-scale struggle meetings against men and women they seized at random on the street and accused of failing to carry Mao's little red book. Or simply wearing the sort of clothes the Red Guard disapproved of. This is ideology. This is ideology as this is Chinese history there. I'm trying to speak without saying run amok or things of that sort. It has gotten to a fever pitch. This is nationalism. This is uber nationalism. Mao hoped serving the Red Guards would recreate for China's youth the experience of the communist revolution. So he wanted them to feel what he felt, like they were accomplishing something. If you want to know the taste of a pear, you must change the pear by eating it yourself. If you want to know the theory and methods of revolution, you must take part in a revolution. All genuine knowledge originates in direct experience. That, ladies and gentlemen, is existentialism. That's Walden. That's Thoreau. That's 19th century American writers. There was a movement in the 1800s which basically said that everything you ever knew, you knew as a child, and the more you read, the less you know. That you know through experience, that you know through seeing it, and touching it, and tasting it, and be a part of it, and that books removed you from it. That was the existentialist argument. That's like Walden Woods and Thoreau and all that stuff. It's like my favorite period of American writing. Sorry. And talk about it a little bit. All right. Finally, Cultural Revolution was disastrous. Attacks on intellects led to economic slowdown. China was even more isolated. Thousands executed and imprisoned.
So the Cultural Revolution is the whole shut down the schools.
The Cultural Revolution, yes, was getting the culture to be a revolutionary culture, a Maoist culture. So everything they tried to do ended up negatively affecting the economy. That is communist China, ladies and gentlemen. 29 fun-filled slides. All right. Tomorrow, you'll be in groups of 3 or 4. 3 or 3, I think. 4. They said, no, not for that. For the, I already have it written up. So, and you'll do it online. And if you have AirPods or old school earbuds or air goggles, if you have the full-on headphones or ear goggles, bring them. I'm going to see if I can have a split class and have some of you in here and some of you out there. That way you can talk to people that are remote and not have this cacophony and not know what people are talking about. That way you don't have to type your conversations. So I'll see if some of you can go outside tomorrow, and then I'll just stand outside at that window so I can answer questions in both directions. That's what I used to do when I had lunch duty in the courtyard. I did my room. My room was never closed for lunch, and I would just stand at the window and supervise both spaces. So I'll find out what's up when the bell for lunch rings. Yes. All right. So that's what we'll do tomorrow. We'll finish for today. I'm going to record decolonization of well, funny enough, Southeast Asia tonight. And if I can get to both of them, I'll do the decolonization of Africa as well, so you can have them for the activity. That's all for now. It's our last lecture until Friday when we talk about Southwest Asia. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go outside before the rain comes. It's going to be off and on all week. And I will see you all tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. And I'll be here if you have any questions.
So bad.
What is it?